Hello there and welcome to today's webinar on leading collaborating using digital tools. Hosted by the Lloyds Bank Academy, my name is Michael Niles. I'm your host for today. One of the reasons that we wanted to get this out there is because of the huge changes that have happened in the digital marketplace over the last just few weeks. We're in a situation whereby so many of us now are collaborating using digital tools. And it's very new to some of us, and it's a very new way of actually managing. So we want to help you understand better how that works. And some of the things that have kind of led to the Lloyds Bank Academy doing these things over the last few years, not just over the last few weeks, is because 25% of small businesses, and I've been a small business advisor for 10 years now, so I recognise the importance of having digital as part of their business. And 2/3 of small businesses can save up to a full day of work by engaging with digital media. So Lloyds Bank Academy are working in partnership to help small businesses do that with Lloyds Bank Academy, with the Good Things Foundation, to make sure that you are able to access digital and use it to improve the way your businesses work. And it's estimated there's about 11.3 million adults in the UK who don't have the digital knowledge to be able to access most jobs, very basic access. It also affects around about 1.7 million small businesses and can be a real barrier these days, particularly in the current circumstances of finding work for yourselves. It can also help with financial well-being. I mean, the research has shown that adopting digital pay services, digital working, can save up to £444 a month. So there's significant benefits to engaging with digital. It can be more productive, and as well it can help with mental health, particularly right now as we're feeling potentially quite isolated, and digital is a fantastic way for us to reach out to those people we care about the most. So through Lloyds Bank Academy, you can be helped with obviously managing your business online, managing finances. Lloyds Bank is, after all, a bank. Understanding your customers better, which is incredibly important. But also we can help by protecting businesses from fraud, and also what this series of workshops is all about is to help you survive and thrive in an online world. And the way things are right now, I'm going to carry on for a while yet, and even when we start returning to work, I believe online elements are going to persist. The digital revolution has kind of been ramped up through where we find ourselves at the moment. So there's so many things that the Lloyds Bank Academy can help you with. So the things we're going to be covering over the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about culture. So it's a very different culture, working from home and managing a team from home. How to communicate, on communication tools you can use to help you move your business forward, how to collaborate, and finish with leadership. And what I wanted to say with regards to leadership is not just a position people occupy. Some of you might be listening to this webinar now going, well, I'm not a leader, I'm not a manager, I'm not a boss. This is not going to be relevant to me. It absolutely is. There is a movement within leadership and management at the moment. There's a chap called Simon Sinek who's got some fantastic work on leadership, and he says there are leaders and they are those who lead. Leaders, or leadership, is a position people are given. And I'm sure all of us can think about people in positions of leadership or managers that haven't been great at it, to be honest. In my experience, and I was a corporate manager for 12 years, I used to manage large teams of people, actually once even for a bank. What I found is within that, some of the best leaders were my team members. And leadership is an attitude, and it's basically taking responsibility for your own development, but also the welfare and the development of those people around you. And a good leader in your team might be the person who, will take a new member under their wing, someone who's always kind of trying to find new and efficient ways of doing things, the people who support us. So when we talk about leadership, yes, this is angled towards people who hold leadership positions. But think about yourself and your own position within an organisation and how perhaps you can become a leader within your small area and help other people around you to grow. And part of that is going to be adapting swiftly to a lot of the changes we're seeing happening right now. I've had personal experience of this. I'm a trainer. My job is to travel around the country, standing in front of large groups of people and training. I have not been able to do that over the last 6 weeks of the lockdown. As a result, I now do online webinars, and over the last 6 weeks, I have used 6 different webinar platforms because the organisations that I work with use different ones. So that has been a massive skills jump for me, in as much as I'm having to access that. So it's something that does affect us all, either in a very big way or in smaller ways. So we want to talk about culture. Culture is a very important element of any business. It's what gets people to come into work in the morning. It's what gets people to engage with organisations. That culture, be it about being inclusive, whether it is about being dynamic, innovative. We go into our offices and we generally understand the culture of the organisation that we are working with. Suddenly we find ourselves in a brand new situation whereby we're sitting at our dining room table, working from home or remotely and in a very different way that we first thought. So the culture has changed because we don't have that immediate communication and connection with people. So part of all of this is adopting a new culture that embraces online. So the types of things that you might want to think about in terms of your culture is trust. Trust is very important. Right now, people are afraid. People are scared. People are having to adapt with rapid change, not just in their business lives, but in their personal lives as well. They may be dealing with suddenly having everyone together. I've been locked in my house for the last 6 weeks with my 2 children and my wife, which is delightful. But when I'm trying to work, I have to banish the children from the dining room. My daughter hasn't even had a breakfast yet, bless her. And that is a big adjustment for me on a personal level, not just on a business level. And there's also people who are currently on their own, who are having to manage the fact that they are isolated from that kind of human contact. So you really need to feel an element of trust. And trust does come from transparency. It is not about saying, everything's fine, everything's brilliant, oh, wow, relax, it's great. Don't be negative, but obviously you do want to be realistic on what's going on. Be transparent, do be a little bit more vulnerable. And people are going to trust that. We are going through massive transitions at the minute, which affect all levels of businesses, whether you're a one-man band like myself or whether you're a huge organisation like Lloyd's. There are huge transitional elements, and people need to feel comfortable. And they're not right now because they're in a very different space than they were 6, 8 weeks ago. So transparency, important. Be honest, be forthright, do be positive, be transparent, and be, most importantly, consistent. Consistency really does breed trust. So you need to find a way of doing things for yourself and for the broader organisation that is consistent. If you hit those beats on a regular basis, people can relax. If things are a little all over the place and this happens on this day, this happens on that day, it confuses people. It adds to that anxiety and that fear. So you need to build trust with people, whether that is upwards from your position or downwards from your position. So be transparent, be honest, share the things that are going on, and try to get some kind of structure into the business that drives and develops a consistent approach. That consistency will allow people to relax a little bit. They know what they're doing, when they're doing it, and how it should be done. And that structure is massively important in allowing people to move forward and embrace change. A lot of people don't like change. They find it quite nervy, so we have to introduce it in a sensible way. And we do that through being transparent, saying these things need to happen. Tell people what support they're going to get. Be consistent in the delivery of that support. And people will begin to trust, will begin to be less anxious, and hopefully become very productive. So communication is key to pretty much anything that we do in our lives. And human beings are generally very, very good communicators. We do this very naturally. But we find that communication is changing at the moment. I'm communicating with you guys at the moment, but I'm actually looking at a webcam and talking to myself. And when you do webinars or when you do online meetings, you've got that kind of disassociation that people have. In as much as you're not getting that immediate feedback, there might be a bit of lag. It's a whole brand new way of communicating, but we do it very well. Human beings are great. One of the reasons we're the dominant species on the planet is our ability to talk to each other and converse, cooperate, and move forward. So we do need to think very carefully about how we start communicating with each other in what is much more of an online world right now. And there are various applications that can help you with that. So we're going to have a look at some of these communication tools. We're going to talk about Microsoft Teams. We're going to have a talk about G Suite and Slack. These are really useful digital tools to help you as an organization and as an individual continue to work effectively and efficiently and keep that level of communication high so people feel involved, people feel included and don't feel isolated. And we're going to start with Slack. Now, Slack is a really interesting, it's very similar in many respects to WhatsApp. If you've used WhatsApp, you will find Slack quite intuitive, but it's a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more focused on business. So with many of these things, you can create communication channels. So you can create, just like you do on WhatsApp, you have WhatsApp groups. On Slack, you would create communication channels, which you could invite certain people to. And it allows you to communicate instantly between each other. So it's a little bit more efficient than emails. And emails can sometimes get very muddy with lots of people copied in and lots of different threads. And that kind of sense of immediacy and really real focus is what Slack is really good at. You can manage, you can track documents. So I was sent the links to this slide deck and to this webinar today via Slack, because the company I'm engaging with for this use Slack to communicate with all of the people in their organization. You can integrate other applications into it, which is really good. And if you want to, and I think this is important right now, why not have a fun off-topic channel? Have a pets photos channel, or, what's the best Zoom background you've seen over the last couple of weeks. You can begin to have those, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but those water cooler moments, the coffee machine moments. The bits where people get up, they wander into the office to grab a coffee, go to the coffee machine or go into the kitchen. They just have one of those nice informal chats with someone. And those are really important to build rapport and relationships, but also just to let people de-stress a little. At home, we can lose that sense of relaxation, that sense of camaraderie, because it's all very much, this is work, let's get on with it. So have those little fun off-topic channels. Do those meetings that are about having a chat rather than just, this is work, this is work, this is work. Two things generally happen when people work from home. They either work too hard and do so much more than they need to because they're trying to justify the fact, I'm at work, I'm at home, I need to be working. Or they get distracted by the fridge or Netflix or whatever it might be, because they don't have any sense of a structure throughout the day, and it can become very, very important and very difficult. Now, Slack has been used by some very large organisations. Ken Carter is on the slide here, but I've got an example here of Vodafone. They felt that they were kind of really localised and siloed. They had all these little different separate areas geographically that were not communicating very well with each other. And they relied on email to communicate, which is very efficient. Email is great, but it can get lots of those really lengthy threads and it can become a little bit noisy. So they started small with Slack with a small number of users and kind of grew it from there. And they went, I'm just reading from some notes there, we quickly went from 10 to over 1,000 users in our department. So that's Robert Grenville, the developer for the platform for Vodafone. A mass Slack adoption gave them a window of opportunity that allowed the software developing teams to quickly scale and grow. So some of these channels were really helping these people interact. So what you can do is you can use Slack, and Ken and Carter, which is an organization which uses Slack pretty much exclusively to communicate. You can really streamline your internal processes. You can narrow down the people that need to be involved, that don't need to be involved, so you can make sure that when messages come out, they're not filling up someone's time unnecessarily, like when people endlessly CC people into emails. It can have a real client-first approach because you can invite your clients into these groups, create these groups, and you can have some real rapport building and excellent communication with the people, most of the people who pay the bills. You can communicate with customers much more directly, and you can share files instantly. It's very good. And actually, one of the interesting notes we've got on here that I've never really considered is that you could use something like WhatsApp for business, but a lot of us are using WhatsApp or Microsoft Messenger, Facebook Messenger for our own personal lives. It might be an idea to separate your business onto something like Slack. So if you get a WhatsApp notification on your phone, you know it's a personal one. If you get a Slack, you know it's a business one. And it just allows you to separate work and home and personal a little bit better. Because when you're working and a thing pings up on WhatsApp, you can go, I'll look at that later on when I'm having a cup of tea. Or if you finish for the evening and you're sitting down enjoying, a cup of tea in front of the telly, and Slack pings, you can go, that's work. I can deal with that tomorrow, and it allows you to get that separation. So it's a really useful and helpful way of making sure that you are managing your time better. And that's what a lot of us don't do when we work from home. We don't manage our time very well. It can become quite stressful. Now, G Suite is one that I use personally. I find G Suite really helpful. I've got my work email address through it, my calendar, everything integrates with the calendar. So people send me a link and it just pops straight into my calendar. When I set up a Zoom meeting to do an online course, Zoom automatically populates my calendar. I've got different G Suite calendars for different organizations that I work with, so I can see what's going on in each of those different businesses or everyone as a whole. So it allows you to do all sorts of things. It allows you to hold meetings and remote events, so you can use the meetups. I've had a meetup before with people across the world. I was sitting on my bed with my laptop being trained. I was actually involved in the training course. And there was someone from Brazil, someone from Bangladesh, 3 people from England, 1 from Germany, 3 from America. And I was communicating with people across the world. It was quite astonishing. I found it so, so exciting. And it allows you to do that. So you've got a really good means to video communicate, audio communicate with people. There's real-time document editing because you have access to Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Docs. So you can get people to collaborate at the same time on the same document simultaneously. And that is really powerful. And that's a great way of doing a meeting, whereby you might have people gathered around a table doing ideas. You can gather around a screen, and all of you can be talking to each other, video chatting, whilst working on the same document and collaborating. It's fantastic. You can track documents. You can store, share, access your team resources. It's all on the cloud. So everyone's got access, and again, you can partition that access. So this person can access that, this person can access this. So it means that you're not giving people unnecessary information, unnecessary things that they have to do. And you can coordinate project plans and schedules using calendars, using docs, using all of those things. It's a very, very flexible system. But there's a really good example of an organization that used G Suite very effectively, Morrison's. And these are huge organizations, but small organizations can adopt this kind of thing as well. Morrison's used to print 500,000 sheets of paper a week and filed them in over 3,000 filing cabinets, which is a massive waste of time and resources, not particularly environmentally friendly. What they've done is they've created all of their folders now on G Suite, and it has saved them with collaboration on docs and online. They've reduced their paperwork, they've reduced their resources. So not only is that environmentally friendly because less paper is being used, it is also more cost effective because you have to buy the paper in the first place, you have to buy the filing cabinets, and now that stuff is placed securely online where anyone can access any documents, or you can take those documents and say, there is a little online filing cabinet here that only these people have the keys to. So it becomes a much more efficient way of managing your stuff online. So it's very well worth looking into. Next is Microsoft Teams. I have used Microsoft Teams when I was working with the University of Hertfordshire. They have, since they've gone home and they're working from home, their team is using Microsoft Teams to organize everything. And the thing about Microsoft Teams, it's like a little office, to be honest. You can create a virtual office for yourself. It's got all of the things that you would expect. It's got video conferencing. It's got document sharing. Obviously, with Microsoft, it can link to OneDrive and Office 365. So all of those documents, again, like with G Suite, can be saved online. They can be shared. You can have folders that are for specific individuals only. So we can really manage workflows. You can create channels for departments, and you can monitor activity. And we're going to go through a couple of the features that they have. So a couple of tips. Yes, it is like a virtual office, and you can create teams, but try to keep the number of teams to the real essentials. You could potentially create like 30, 50, 100 different teams, but then it becomes unwieldy. So, try to keep it very specific and, perhaps have someone in charge of managing all of that stuff to make sure you don't suddenly have teams of teams of teams. Try to make them clear, very clear headings, finance, marketing, whatever it might be, and try to avoid duplications. So again, a good idea to have someone centrally managing these teams just to make sure that they don't get carried away and go all over the place. You can create these channels. They can be themed on departments. So you could say finance, marketing, customer service, or it could be on a project. So the project could be online documentation. So this is a group of people who are going to be responsible for online documents. They could be private. So again, you can just have these teams, these groups that are for specific people, or you can have a general channel that everyone can interact with. That's quite nice to kind of have chats and share news and best practice. Really, really helpful. You can share documents and content, and they got quite a nice range of emojis actually on Microsoft Teams. If that is your bag, you are not going to be disappointed. There's plenty of stuff that you can do with them. So those channels allow you to create workflow that is access to specific people, which means, again, we go back to that structure. They know where to go to find the work that they need to do, and they can feedback, collaborate, and they can communicate with people. You can also explore activities. So like it is a social networking platform. It's just a business-focused networking platform. The activity will show you any unread messages you've got. So if people have messaged you directly, that will come up, or message to a team directly. That is really useful. You can turn your notifications on and off. So when you've finished for the day, it's a good idea just to go notifications. One of the things you can do on Slack actually is to set an out of office. So you'll only get Slack notifications during your working hours. You can share documents and content, again, which will come up in activity. And if you share it with an individual, they'll be notified that they have had that document shared with them. And again, you've got those lovely gifs and emojis to keep things moving. See a lovely photograph on the screen there of a puppy cuddling a teddy bear. Who doesn't want to see a photograph of a puppy cuddling a teddy bear? That is really going to make your day better. Puppies and kittens, absolutely fantastic. And you've got chat functions as well. So again, there are private conversations that can happen between individuals or groups. So you can share that, you can chat to someone directly, and that could be a video chat as well as a text chat. Or you can do that with colleagues. You can always add more people and make a private group. So you can take your main team and you can segment it if necessary so people are working on different elements. Again, to streamline things to make sure you're not repeating work or sharing stuff with people that isn't useful to them. So it's really useful, Microsoft Teams. I like it. It's quite nice to use. So how do other companies manage and use Microsoft Teams? Well, what was happening with Air France here is that they were finding actually the original way that they were trying to communicate with people really wasn't working, because they had ground staff and they had the staff on the planes. They had people all around the world, and they were finding that really difficult to manage. So they created Microsoft Teams. They got everyone trained up on it, everyone using it, which you can use from a mobile phone, you can use from a tablet, you can use from a laptop, and they were able to use these teams to communicate more effectively with each other, to share schedules, to share flight times, to manage problems. So they could do this across remote teams. They could make sure the right teams were looking at the right information at the right time, and where there were delays, etc., they were able to manage those absolutely specifically. They weren't, those files could be managed directly, so people could be online, they could be chatting, and absolutely wonderful. It was a really good way of doing it and working live on files to collaborate and make sure everything was working properly. And they were sharing summaries and things like that. So it's a really seamless way to manage customer service as well, because they could collaborate and communicate very, very quickly with, and getting good results. And also Helsinki University, they distributed their class material through it. So they got the students to line up. They used the notes functions on Microsoft as well to manage it, which meant the students and the teachers and the professors, they could collaborate on the same file simultaneously. So it was really, really very useful. So they were integrating it with Office 365 and Microsoft Teams, which was helping them too. It made them more efficient. It actually allowed them to collaborate more. So as much as we want people to be able to collaborate physically, what digital does allow us to do is to collaborate virtually as well. We can't always be together. We can't always be doing things, particularly now. You want to have those tools that allow you to collaborate properly. Speaking of which, collaboration tools, and we'll go through these at a fairly high level, but we've got some fantastic abilities to collaborate. And the fact of the matter is digital is inherently collaborate. When we are talking to people on social networks or emails, we do collaborate. You know, we like, we share, we comment. Now, we are actually quite good at collaborating online already. It's part of our daily lives now. But obviously, like with anything, we've got apps that can allow us to do that. And I've got a great example of collaboration here. It's the one on the top left-hand corner of that slide, the Remote Work Survival Kit. This is something that's come out of this situation we find ourselves in right now. It was developed by over 200 people using Google Docs. At one point, over 135 pages, several languages, and it's now being transferred to a website. So you had 200 people collaboratively working from around the world on a single document for the Remote Work Survival Kit. Might be worth having a Google. But we've got so many other things we can help. Trello is one that I use personally, which is really good. Monday is very good. I use Monday with one of the organizations I work with. These are project management tools which allow you to allocate work and can really help you structure, again, that day. Now, at the moment, we feel a little structureless. We feel a little bit at sea, and what these allow you to do is to be more structured. They allow you to have a day that is more organized and allows you as a team, as an organization, to make sure that, you know, the left hand knows what the right hand is doing at all points. So it's very well worthwhile looking at these tools, and they're so good they can enhance productivity. You know, we want to be productive. We are working from home, we are away from our normal situation, but as businesses and organizations, we need to continue to be productive. And we can't just walk to someone's desk now and say, how are things? How do you need my help? What's going on? What we need to be able to do is to do that more effectively digitally. So things like Microsoft Teams and Trello and, you know, all of these wonderful applications that are available allow us to enhance productivity because we can communicate much more effectively. It's a very new place we're finding ourselves in a minute. Very few businesses have ever, you know, there are businesses that have been working remotely for years, but the majority of us have not. It can help maintain team cohesion if you've got a group of people, whether that's 5 people or 500 people or 5,000 people. You can keep that team coming together because what you're able to do is to make sure people know who they need to talk to, when they need to talk to them, they know what they need to do, when they need to do it, they know who can support them, the tools that they've got available. It brings people together. They feel confident, they feel included, they feel productive, and as a result, hopefully some of those anxiety levels that we have at the moment are reducing because work is not a place that's adding to that anxiety. Work is a place where we can go, understand where we are, understand what we need to do, and get it done. And we can still communicate with our colleagues in a very different way, yes, but we get that sense of team. We get that sense of being part of something rather than being in your dining room on a laptop all day just working. That can be very lonely and that can be very stressful. We want people to feel included. That's what these collaboration tools are very effective at doing. And it can maintain the workplace as well, in as much as what we want to be able to do is to keep that workplace ethic, to make sure that things work the way they work to. They maintain that kind of sense of place. So we can be a workplace rather than loads of people in different places working at our dining room tables. You want to keep that sense of place within the organization, that culture that we're trying to create. We talked about right at the beginning, all of this collaboration, all of this ability to keep our businesses together can be achieved through effective use of digital means. Digital is there to facilitate physical. No, we're not there. One thing that technology cannot replace is empathy, creativity, imagination, the things that make us human. I don't want to get too philosophical here about it, but what digital can do is facilitate these things. It's never a replacement. It can't replace them. But these tools allow us in these situations to maintain that kind of human connection. We can still be creative. We can still be imaginative. We can still demonstrate empathy. We're just doing it via a electronic platform rather than by sitting next to someone and having a chat. It's very, it's important to think about that culture. Again, people feel comfortable. They're more productive. They help other people. They can become little leaders in their own bubble that we talked about. That person who feels so comfortable, they can work efficiently, they can develop themselves, but also the people who are struggling, the people who might be finding it more difficult, can gravitate towards them for some support. So you get this lovely culture of communication, of support, and of collaboration. And these tools are there to facilitate that, not to replace it, but to facilitate it. Right, so leadership from afar. This is a really difficult one. I'm from a leadership background. I spent 12 years, like I said, working for large organizations. And, I had upwards of 60 people reporting to me at one point. And I have managed remote teams as well over my time in management, which is more challenging because if someone is in the room with you, they can come up and say, need some help, or you can look at them and go, they appear to be struggling. Let's go and have a little chat. And that is something you can lose with leading people who are no longer in your immediate vicinity. You don't have that direct connection with them. So we have to think about leading differently. So what we might think about, and again, this is not just the leaders, the people in leadership positions' responsibility. Leadership is a responsibility to, for everyone. If you feel that you can take a role to help develop yourself and other people, you are a leader. If you're that person that, the role model that people come to, you're already a leader. Leadership is not just about the people at the top. Leadership is something that should be present throughout the entirety of the business. But part of managing remote teams, you've got the physical stuff. You've got using task managers, things like Trello and Microsoft Teams and Slack to let people know what they should be doing, how they should be doing it, and giving them resources to be able to do it, whether that's a document, an online form, or just a chat to talk through it. Obviously, you can then share the documents, but again, making sure the documents are shared with the right people. What you don't want is a load of documents going out and people looking at it, they don't apply to me. So again, it's structuring that so people get the information they need when they need it. Again, that means they can be more efficient, but also they don't feel overwhelmed by going, oh, looked at that, that's not for me, that's not for me. So again, sharing documents, you can use your task managers to do that and make sure that you are sharing the right stuff with the right people. That is far more efficient and again, will build their confidence and that element of trust. Because they go, oh, right, this person, I always get the right stuff from this person. I feel confident that they've got my back. Whereas if you send them a load of nonsense all the time, it's going to be very stressful and they'll actually potentially withdraw a little bit or get even more anxious. Do have weekly syncs, catch-ups. Get your team together. Now, if you've got a massive team, you might want to compartmentalize that in a minute, but have a sync, use the video functions, chat to people, Microsoft Teams, G Suite, they all come with video conferencing options. Now, you've also got things like the Zoom as well that can help you with that. So have those weekly things, get together and talk to people. And I would do that as far as possible via video because it gives that face-to-face communication. It gives the ability for you to really communicate and, there's body language, there is pitch and tone of voice. It's going to be that much more personal rather than just a type saying, are you all right? People going, yes. Of course they're going to go yes, but you can get a little bit more from them. And I would also, where possible, have video check-ins with people on an individual basis, if you can, but just to say, and schedule it in, not that, I'm checking up on you, or I'm isolating you because I think you're struggling. Just say every single person will get a meeting with me every week, every couple of weeks, or however you frequently want to do it. It's scheduled in the diary. This is about me communicating with you and helping you out. Please feel free to talk to me at any time. This is your scheduled spot. And then no one feels that they're kind of being singled out, and it becomes the norm. And it can be anything from, how you're doing or talking through challenges that person might be facing from a business perspective. But it might also be nice for that kind of coffee machine chat as well. So, those chats where you can sit with people and just chew the fat, talk about their day and check that they are okay. Some people will be embracing this and be absolutely fine. Some people will be finding it challenging. Those people who are finding it challenging will want to talk to people. They'll want to feel reassured. And that is your opportunity to do that. Whereas in your weekly sync, when you're talking to the whole team, they might not want to talk about that directly because they don't want to feel that they are failing or they're letting anybody down. They might be shy about it. So do have those personal catch-ups. Video, I would suggest as often as you can, but please, even if it's just dropping chats and emails saying, is everything okay? I'm here. If you need anything, give me a call. People are isolated. People are on their own. We need to make them feel less isolated, make them feel that they have people they can talk to, they can engage with, just as they would if they were in the office. It is not business as usual, but we try to create the sense of a business as usual, a new business as usual culture, which is about using digital tools to create personal moments. So as leaders, either someone who is a leader in a leadership position or someone who has adopted a leadership role because, they want to do something positive and want to help people, think about that culture and how you can embrace it. And then if you demonstrate it, if you live it and breathe it, I can't remember the quote, but, be the change you want to see. That kind of stuff will begin to bring other people in, and they'll start doing it. And it'll just spread it. It's probably not a good analogy to use in current times, but it'll spread throughout your team. And hopefully that culture will begin to root and embed itself. So what you have is a proper workplace, and that workplace may be all over the country in people's bedrooms, but it is a workplace, and people feel that they are part of an organisation, again, rather than someone sitting in their room or their dining room table on a laptop. So think about how you might be able to facilitate that. So to establish trust, set those clear expectations. People want to know what they need to do every day. So we don't want to be micromanaging people, but at the same time, people want structure. I need to do this, need to do this. It helps them through their day, and it also helps them stop. I'm finished now, I can do something else. Those virtual water cooler moments or coffee machine moments that are nice to just have a say. Let's just chew the fat. My wife is a teacher, and she has a cake and coffee afternoon with her team on a Friday, because they're still working, they're still planning, and they are going to school on a rotating basis. But she gets them all together, and they make a cake, they have a cup of tea, and they just have a chat. So if you can do those little moments, they're really, really helpful just to get a sense of team and place. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't know something, go to the expert and ask them. Ask people, are they okay? How are you finding things? Are there any other supports that you need? What do you think of the situation do you have? Just engage with them and show them that you value their opinion, you value their skill, and that they are part of what's going on. And then that builds the trust, the transparency element. And if you're unsure of things, don't be afraid to go out and say, I've got this problem, what do you think? And again, that is building trust. You're showing that people you value their opinions, and you bring them in. So provide virtual spaces, like we said on Slack, have those fun channels, have a dress-up Friday, whatever it might be. If you're using Zoom to communicate, have a crazy Zoom background competition, because those virtual backgrounds, you can create them on Canva, make them look really cool. Whatever you might have, make sure you're doing it, because it's going to support your teams and help them manage their way through this interesting situation. So we've covered over the last 45 minutes or so these four areas. Culture, so think about how your business's culture is going to change in this challenging time, and the kinds of things, what do you want to be known as? Is it about inclusivity? Is it about de-stressing? Is it, what are the culture, what are the things that your business is now about to support the people who are working from home? Communicate, use as many tools as you have to communicate. Pick one that works best for your business. It might be Microsoft Teams, it might be Slack. Get it up there, get people trained, get people comfortable, and get communicating. And use those platforms to draw people in and get them collaborating like they would have done in the office. It's a different way of doing it, but once we get in there and people feel that they are engaged and they are still included with their colleagues and they are making an impact and adding value, that is really going to help them manage what's going on at the moment and demonstrate leadership. And leadership is not about you've missed your quota for the week or stats. Leadership is about going to people and checking that they have the tools to be great at what they do. Now, there is another example from Simon Sinek I mentioned earlier on, and he says, if someone's performance is down, you can go in and say, oi, your performance is down, sort it out, or there's going to be trouble. Now, that's not leadership. Leadership is, I've noticed your performance is down. That's unusual. How can I help? That's leadership. Leadership is about empathy. Leadership is about understanding that, people do want to succeed, and you are there to facilitate that success. And you can do that from someone who is an official leader, or you can do that from someone who just has the backs of the people that they are surrounded by. That they're responsible for. They see their colleagues and their manager. Managers are under a lot of stress at the moment. That sort of empathy upwards is going to be helpful as well. But create a culture that allows people to communicate effectively, to collaborate and feel valued, and demonstrate leadership at whatever level you are, to show people the journey that they can take to really embrace those previous three elements. So that's the end of the webinar for now. I would suggest very strongly having a checkout of the Lloyds Bank Academy. There is so much support that you can get out there. Online courses, webinars like this, and access to all sorts of things for free that is going to help you and your business move forward in this incredibly challenging situation we find ourselves in, and potentially come out at the end of it that much stronger. Digital transformation is happening whether we like it or not, and the businesses that embrace it, use it to support, facilitate better working practices, are the ones that are probably going to come out of where we are stronger. Remote working is going to be part of our lives for a much longer yet. Google announced the other day that they're quite happy for their people to work from home until the end of 2020. So I think we will find that whatever happens with regards to the lockdown and the situation we find ourselves in, this kind of interaction, this kind of remote working, more digital collaboration is going to be something that persists quite significantly forward. So do everything you can to understand it, play with it, find the ones that work best for you and implement them positively within your businesses. And you'll probably find that you can come out of this situation hopefully stronger at the end of it all. So thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate your time. I hope this has been a useful and informative session. That's all from me. It just remains for me to say keep well, stay safe, and have a fantastic day. Thank you very much.